And the second part of today, I will just smoothly pass to Ilona Biedroń, and she will guide us through our national program related to national Polish program related to river restoration. I'm very glad that this program recently was launched, and we all hope for its smooth implementation. And that's why our aim is also to support this implementation when needed, of course. So, Ilona, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Thank you for invitation and for previous lectures, which was, I think, a good base to my presentation. Generally, I'm trying to think rather optimistic. Not like Mateusz, and I think that there is no bad place to talk about how important healthy rivers are to us, and I hope that even online meeting it will be useful to us and maybe create some ideas that will help others understand rivers better. But I should be talk about the program. So it was developed by the Multiconsult Polska, as you said, but on behalf of State Water Holding Polish Waters. It was a huge, several months long work of the group of specialists in water management, hydrology, ecology, and engineering and environmental management. So the program is indicated the direction of actions to be taken in individual water body in order to achieve environmental objectives. It focuses the actions influencing the improvement of hydromorphological condition. Okay. My presentation plan, so I will conduct a speech according this what you can see on the slide. First of all, I want to focusing of the objectives, scope, and relevance of the program, and then I talk about catalogues of restoration measures and also a methodology of identification of restoration needs. We are here in university, River University, but this program is also dedicated not only for rivers, but also for lakes and coastal and transitional waters. And then I go to say something about concept for the development of the list of priority areas and a proposal for implementation of this plan. Finally, I will talk about Handbook of Good Practice for surface water restoration. The need of development of the national program of surface water restoration is contained in current updates, mean first revision of the water basin management plans as one of a national measure to achieve environmental goals indicated by the Water Framework Directive. Water restoration is an important challenge for Polish water management, as you can see on the one of the first slides of Mateusz's presentation. Monitoring results indicate that most surface water bodies have not achieved a good ecological status. Particularly in the case of rivers, it can be assumed that hydromorphological pressures are largely responsible for this state. And in response to these needs, more and more restoration projects are being undertaken in Poland, for example, in Drava River. But the scale of the challenge requires a directional approach to water restoration, including striving to perform the necessary action and as economically and environmentally effective as possible. The objective of the program is to draw up a list of priority areas in which, taking into account environmental and economic conditions, restoration activities will be carried out first. It is the definition of priority areas performed by water administration, Polish water. In order to appoint these priority areas, we as a team proposed a methodology which was based on the analysis carried out nationwide, which focus on diagnosing problems and defining areas requiring restoration. That was the map of in Mateusz's presentation. I also show you in the next slide. Each surface water body that has been included in these areas requiring restoration has been assigned as a potential set of measures to improve the hydromorphological indicators in terms of achieving at least good water status or potential for artificial and heavy modified water bodies, and targets for protected areas. The first step in this analysis was to identify problems related to hydromorphological pressures in each surface water body. For this purpose, we use the following indicators. For river water bodies, it was here, hydromorphological index of rivers. This river hydromorphology assessment method is currently the reference method using for assessment water status, and is based on the British RHS method developed by our national studies. This index is composed of two components, parameters of hydromorphological diversity and also degree of hydromorphological transformation. For identification hydromorphological problems in lake water bodies, we use the Lake Habitat Transformation Index, which was adapted to Polish conditions. Also, for Each water body, we made analysis such as land use of the catchment area, each of water body, requirements for protected areas as regards hydromorphological elements, and current results of environmental monitoring of biological, physico-chemical, and hydromorphological elements. Besides the diagnosis of problems, we have development a set of indicators that serve as a criteria for designation areas requiring restoration. The designated areas have been arranged in a hierarchy of urgency, take restoration measures, allowing the selection of priority areas. For all areas requiring restoration, we recommended sets of restoration measures, which was more detailed for priority areas. The role of the program is identifying the directions of actions to be taken in very single water body in the group of areas requiring restoration in order to achieve the environmental objectives. The results based on available data and the adopted methodology for selecting corrective actions is of a directional character and requires detailed analysis on a local scale. And the final decision on the restoration measures and the timetable for the implementation will be taken during the preparation of the second revision of the river basin management plans. The program refers to the currently functioning planning documents in water management and should also be reflected in the plans being developed, not only for river basin management plans, but also for flood risk management plans and documents which are connected with it, and also programs like water scarcity program or draw plan. Knowing the role of the program, I can move on to its content. This slide shows a schematic approach to understanding restoration needs. Due to a degree of hydromorphological transformation and ability of aquatic ecosystem to regenerate spontaneously, the restoration measures proposed in the plan refers to three basic groups of measures. A natural regeneration consisting of leaving the habitat to spontaneous regeneration of hydromorphological or biobiotic elements. Assisted regeneration, which including natural regeneration, is complemented by the need to carry out properly planned work within the framework of current water management, including the application of good practices in water maintenance, and interventions aimed at supporting natural hydromorphological processes which favor naturalization. Reconstruction of the ecosystems includes assisted regeneration and natural regeneration, and with the need to carry out technical actions aimed at changing the current hydromorphological condition resulting from the degradation of ecosystem, and also ecological action aimed at supporting the development of natural diversity. From the environmental point of view, the greatest role will be played by activities supporting restoration, observing good practices in water maintenance and planning hydrotechnical investments or limiting maintenance works. These activities, together with activities supporting restoration of natural hydromorphological processes, which should support maintenance activities, constitute a basic program of restoration measures. Technical solutions should be the narrowest group of restoration activities. The proposed restoration measures have been catalogued. Dedicated resources catalog has been created for each of water categories, means rivers, lakes, and coastal marine waters. And the catalog defines the range of available resources from which to select and compose a program for the restoration of a particular category of water body. This absolutely doesn't mean that it is necessary to implement all the measures included in every facility being restored. It is therefore necessary to select carefully the actions that are appropriate and necessary in a given solution, so that they do not worsen the current situation. For example, the action place a stone in the river is generally a good solution, but maybe not in the waterway. So let's go to the catalog. The catalog consists of 5 groups of measures. Measures marked with letter U are restoration modification in the contents of maintenance measure. In this group, we could find basic measure, which is living to natural processes. It's U0, or abounding, limiting, or modifying the moving of plants from the banks of inland surface water. Measures indicate letter D are additional measures under original water management. For example, planting trees and shrubs in the coastal zone, or introducing key elements for habitat differentiation, like, for example, wood, and shaping wetland buffer zone, which Virginia and Mateusz talk about in the presentation. So these 2 groups are complemented by, by technical measures. For example, lowering parts of the riverside area or restoration of old riverbeds. Also in catalog, we put some measure to the group measure in the catchment area. For example, it will be limit restoration of wetlands or limiting surface runoff or another supporting measures. Due to the scale of restoration needs, you know about it, we need another supporting measures. For example, land acquisition, prohibitions, information and educational, which must be implemented in parallel with that above actions. Because we know that the key to change the approach to current practices of maintenance and hydrotechnical investments from the point of view of the society and water administration. During developing the catalog, we took into account its compliance with previously developed good practices catalog in river maintenance and hydrotechnical investments, which are recommended by the Polish waters to be taken into account. And this publication is available on the governmental website. And this is a link on the slide. The catalog, in addition to defined action means, contains also a number of features that describe them, such as application, guidelines, possible impacts on catchment area development, or possible impacts on flood risk. Now I will go to the analytical part of the program, discussing the different categories waters, and start for the rivers. So the approach to designation rivers for restoration consisted of 8 steps. And first step, it was diagnosis of state, each natural, artificial and heavy modified water body. And for this we use index here. And the next step was the analysis of hydromorphological and ecological changes for the state. And then we use multi-criteria analysis, where was 5 groups of criteria with point rankings, which allowed us to identify areas requiring restoration. And for each such area, it means river water body, we developed program of measures which was related to modeling expected changes to the here after the introduction of the program of measures. Finally, analysis of the possibility of carrying out restoration measures allowed us to identify priority areas in which I will remind you that taking into account environmental and economic conditions, restoration activities will be carried out first. Maybe some words about criteria. So the list of criteria you can see on the slide. First, it was a migration pathway for diadromic fishes and protected catadromic fishes. And the second, possibility of achieving good ecological status or good ecological potential of surface water body. Feasibility of achieving environmental objectives for water-dependent protected areas, it was third. Next was the possibility of ensuring the biological viability of the associated river and lake water body in need of restoration. And the last one, it was other water management needs or social reasons. You can see presentation, Mateusz presentation, and you know that he likes surveys, so we also have Mateusz in our team, and we also have a survey. And for this criterion, we obtain information from Geoportal survey, which we create during our walks. Each criterion had the same weight. More points of your score, it is the result that higher is need for restoration. You can now you can see how we create this map. And this is the map of areas requiring restoration, and it was constructed by superimposing the scores of the rivers of this just 5 criteria, and it defined the multimetrics. The hierarchization of these areas referred to the multimetrics value, and the effect of improvement of hydromorphological state expressed by the ratio of the value of actual here to here value after applying program of measures. As you can see, the scale is huge, and deserted 98% of river water bodies as areas requiring restoration. It was diagnosed that over 1,300 river water bodies, which constitute over 30% of all river water body, that means that two groups of the rivers require urgent restoration. It may be worth mentioning, as a result of research carried out, it is estimated that for 1/3 of Polish waters, it will be sufficient to introduce the simplest restoration measures from the group of the basic program of restoration measures, from the base of the and the center of the pyramid of actions that I showed you. The most desirable actions are actions consisting of limiting invasive maintenance works and enabling the spontaneous restoration of the good environment of the water courses, or modify the way and the maintenance works have so far been carried out by adding simple measures such as supplementing gravel substrate in the riverbed or supplementing the resources of wood room in the stream. Now I will go to problems of lakes and hierarchization of this water body. So in that category, areas requiring restoration are lakes where hydromorphological pressures have been diagnosed, and these pressures have significant impacts on the deterioration to their ecological status or potential. Also, the achievement of environmental objectives depends, among other things, on the implementation of restoration measures. The effect of restoration of lakes will be gradually improving habitat conditions and increasing biodiversity in the whole coastal zone, reducing pollution in runoff, improvement of fauna, living conditions, the restoration of a quasi-natural regime or fluctuations and water exchange, and maintaining or restoring appropriate humidity conditions in water-dependent areas, included protected areas. In the hierarchy of restoration needs of lake water bodies, we considered, first of all, striving to restore the natural status of the water body, design as the heavy modified water body by restoration of ecological continuity. Also, the achievement of the environmental objectives of the lakes, including environment of good condition of habitats and biological elements, and among others, the need of restoration resulting from the objectives of protected areas. So the highest category, I'm sorry for translation, was awarded to the lakes at risk to meet environmental objective with status heavy modified water body and location or connection with two protected areas. Here the highest category is category 1, but category 1 and 2, that's mean also water body besides protected areas. We desert this by the lakes with high need of restoration, and this is the group this group represents 4% of lake water bodies. Also, lakes with natural status and at risk to meet environmental objectives need restoration, and it is the group category number 3. And we distinguish more than 100 lakes that need individual program of measures, because not all lakes have developed an action program because of indicators and lack of detailed data. And this sum of lakes is 15.7% of lakes which needs restoration. You can see it on this map. 1 and 2 is red and orange color on this map, and this is the high. This is the high need, and lakes with number 3 in 3 categories, yellow, and that's with individual program. You can see as a violet on this map. So now I will go to transitional and coastal waters. First of all, we know that this is a very specific category of waters, and because of that, and also because of legal and administrative condition in Poland, the analysis were quantitative and qualitative. Natural and socio-economic conditions were quantitatively analyzed, and we use them for designation areas requiring restoration, and in the hierarchy. Because in Poland, Polish water are responsible only for the protection of waters in this category, but there are also marine authorities which are responsible for the management of the seashores and seabed. It was important to indicate potential directions for extending the scope of restoration in terms of legal requirements concerning environmental protection, coastal protection, and special planning. These elements included in the qualitative analysis. For the designation of areas requiring restoration, we use 2 criteria related to continuity for aquatic organisms. First, the first criterion concerned the connection of transitional and coastal waters with rivers. We considered that essential to restore the continuity of water courses, which are directly linked to marine waters by the ecosystem, relevant for diadromic species, and taking into account the requirements indicated for catadromic species, which are subject of nature to 1000 protection, and where pressures have been indicated at risk of falling the environmental quality objectives. 134 areas have been designated in this way. The second criterion was concentrated on restore ecological continuity and ensure undisturbed hydraulic contact with coastal lakes, with direct ecosystemic links to marine waters. In this analysis, 12 lakes has been identified for which the environmental objective requires the restoration of ecological continuity. The hierarchy of these areas refers to the criteria set for rivers and for lakes. Areas requiring restoration are considered primarily those coastal rivers which have the largest spawning streams for diadromic fish, seafood and salmon, and which require protection in the estuary zone, as well as the possibility of upstream migration, and that's mean biological continuity. As transitional and coastal waters under criteria 1 and 2, two water bodies were finally identified as priority areas, and it was Polish coastal waters of the Bornholm Basin, Lake Kopań, and Puck Lagoon with Reda estuary. Another priority areas for lakes and for rivers have been designated in different places in Poland, as you can see, and they refer to various problems and corrective solutions from catalogues of restoration measures. And please note that the priority areas are areas with specific conditions, and for them we have done a detailed analysis which are consisting of, first of all, field identification of problems and analysis of problems and determination of the scope and possibilities of applying selected restoration measures. And then identification of land ownership, which is particularly important for activities in the river valley, where land ownership is often not the property of the water administrator. And before analysis of the possibility of implementing restoration and identification of problems with this implementation, we perform a SWOT analysis of restoration. At the last chapter of the program were related to implementation issues. We know that we have developed a document in which we propose set of measures for surface waters. They are likely to be included in the next revision of river basin management plan, but simply placing them in the plan is not enough. We know about it. Why? Mateusz explained us in his presentation how difficult it is for us as a society to change the current paradigms related to the function of rivers. Other activities that will support the program are also important, and Mateusz talked about it because he was one of a key expert for restoration rivers in this project. So the strengthening of knowledge and experience related to restoration are the need to implement this type of activities plays an essential role here. Schematic actions are needed, address both to the water administration and to the society. For example, trainings for water administration in the field of good environmental practices in planning activities in water management, which are referred to the program or the development of a catalog of model cases in undertaking restoration activities, which may serve as an example to undertake activities in a wide range of restoration measures. It is also necessary to build social awareness at the same time. The program should be supported by a number of instruments facilitating and even enabling the planning and implementation of restoration activities. This includes ensuring consistency with other planning documents in water management, as I show you at the beginning of presentation, or introducing a legal and financial solution. There are no tools in Poland that would allow for efficient purchase of land for space for rivers or for compensation of farmers, as we talked about earlier, for the effects of periodic control over channel environmental flow. So instruments that discourage building too close to rivers or encourage restoration should also be developed. The success of the implementation of the program is not only the provision of financial resources, but also the need to build institutional partnerships, because some of the activities go beyond the competence of the water administration. While doing the program, survey addressed to the general public was conducted. I told you earlier that it was result we used to prioritize river needs, but from then we know that the high social response showed that it should be developed of an open public tool for reporting needs and suggestion for restoration. At the end, I want to say a few words about Handbook of Good Practice for Surface Water Restoration, which is supporting product of the program, and it is publicly available on the Polish Water website. The publication was edited by Paweł Pawlaczyk, who unfortunately couldn't join us today, but Paweł, in cooperation with the key experts involved in the projects, has developed a 300-page publication whose framework table you can table of contents you can see on the slide, and this publication is a compendium of knowledge about restoration. It refers to many source publications and case studies. The publication widely discussed the catalog of activities, recalling to a wide extent the examples of implemented activities, including those that were planned to visit during River University. I mean, the effect of removal of migration barrier, one of the first dams in Europe on Drava River, by built useful fish pass on Kamienna hydrotechnic power plant, or you can see below the removal of migration barrier on Drava River at Stary Młyn in Głęboczek by using a bypass channel as similar to natural stream fish pass while maintaining the refill pool sequences. During the project, we work out a scheme of approach to planning of restoration activities, which was used in the work carried out for priority areas. The scheme of approach and range of activities that are recommended to be carried out are included in Chapter 6, practical aspects of restoration planning. And that's all. With this practical accent, I end my lecture and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ilona, very much for this knowledgeable lecture. And I'm really glad to see the program from the inside, so how it was prepared and organized. So that was very informative from my point of view.